topic of discussion. Check on in. I thought I'd pop in tonight, and this is kind of an impromptu. You know, usually I'm motivated to come on and share certain things with you, but as many of you know, I've been traveling for a little bit, so I kind of pop in when I can. But amazing platform that it is, decided to delete one of my videos again. Oh, YouTube, you are so fantastic. What I love about YouTube is that they just take it upon themselves to really make calls of judgment and, you know, making calls to say what you can and cannot see. So in FleurBrun fashion, being the petty Sagittarius that I am, triple Sag, you know, I like to come on and just agitate the situation a little more. Okay, you want to delete a video, so every video they delete, I give you something a little extra. So peace to everybody, check on in. I know it's a little impromptu. Let me just say this to all of those who were impacted by the pole shift or the governmental storm that hit Houston and Texas. I want to say I'm really sending a lot of well wishes to everyone in Texas. I've checked on a lot of people who were there. I know it's very difficult. You have been forewarned about the pole shift, so many of you were quite prepared for anything and everything. Unfortunately, your Willy Wonka systems like to add a little extra, you know, like put the little cherry on the top of the pole shift, shifting the magnetosphere, which changes the weather dramatically and causes all kinds of weird kind of weather patterns. So I want to really say, everyone, please send well wishes for our family in Texas and also in Jamaica and a couple of the Caribbean islands. I'm really sorry that you're going through this, and you will be fine, and know that you are well supported by many of us. And, you know, try to refrain from letting Willy Wonka and his League of Doom really bring you to the point where you feel like you don't have any hope, because you should always hold on to that, and also keep your vibrations high so that you have less of the sting of, you know, the changes that are coming with the pole shift. Okay. So come on, y'all, check on in. I am in Brazil now. Even though I'm on with this right now because it was chilly in the room, but I am in Brazil. So last time you saw me, I was in Argentina. Before that, you saw me in Chile, and I am now in one of my, you know, my favorite spots to hit up in Brazil. So big up to all my Brazilians. I say boa noite to all my Brazilians in the house. So I've been going cross country in Brazil, being the Sag that I am. So I am looking really quite tired, and this is called hair hat wear. So you see my hair, but my hair is feeling itself since I hit South America. So big up to all you in South America. I love you. In Chile, really treated us well. Had a great time. Argentina, mwah, bellissimo, wonderful, amazing time. And Brazil, you already know. Okay, so check on it. I drove about, I'm a Sag, y'all. I've been driving for a couple hours. I'm driving across Brazil. So we're going from central Brazil, big up to our family. I saw some aliens I had some alien contact in Sao Paulo, and now we're in Belo Horizonte. So we're driving across Brazil in pure Sag fashion, and I am tired, but I am tired of YouTube really taking advantage of me. And it's funny to me that they made sure they did this when I was traveling, because they thought I didn't know. But YouTube, oh, I love you, YouTube. Thank you so much for showing so much interest in my channel and always putting a focus on the things I share with the family. So I decided to come on again. Okay, they deleted my video on blood types and galactic connections, and said it was something out of control. It is absolutely out of control, the things that the platform's able to do, but it's not our platform. We just have a space on here, and they obviously let us know. So YouTube, thank you again for really showing such strong emphasis on my channel and really putting the spotlight on me. I so appreciate you. Thank you. All right, y'all, so check on in. I'll wait until we get to 500, and we'll talk about dome jumping. And galactic repatriation. Now, as many of you know, Maybe I should wait, right? So I don't know if I'm going to purple pill you. I never quite know. I'm a little delirious from driving all those hours today in Brazil, but I think I got a little purple pill in there for you. Okay. So check on in. And again, please send well wishes to our family in Jamaica and the Caribbean islands. So I think the Grenada was affected, Jamaica, and also our family in Dallas and Houston that are still dealing with the aftermath of, the pole shift weather, along with a dash of Willy Wonka's additives to it to make it worse. Because they're just so wonderful, aren't they? The Dark Cabal, they just keep it coming. It's not only that you have a fake president that farts and poops publicly and doesn't apologize about it, but now you have a whole system that basically supports just muffling and just silencing people who have some inkling of what may be going on in here. Anyway, so check on it. I'm on my petty sag mode. I've been driving for hours, y'all. If you want it, you go and get it because they deleted one of my videos, so I'm here for it. Okay, so we'll wait until a few more people check in. I'm not gonna wait too long. Okay, I'm in for my petty patty. I'm petty patty today. That's my new, I'm a trans petty patty today. So YouTube, you brought it. You decided to, you know, what is it? Like reignite me? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So we're going to talk about jumping zones and repatriation, galactic repatriation. And I'll give you some information about what I actually experienced in Sao Paulo. I had contact with with some Nordic beings. I actually think I might have picked them up when I was in Argentina, and they kind of came to kind of like, I don't know, kind of scout me a little bit when I was in Sao Paulo. So it's interesting because I felt like my stay in the Nazi realm, you know what I mean, in Argentina, might have stimulated a little interest. So they popped on in, because Brazil is like the hotspot of ET interaction. You know that, right? I've talked about it all the time. The one thing I say is that when you're in Brazil, they don't really try to hide the aliens. Listen, we were over in Liberdade. Big up to everyone who likes Liberdade. It is the second largest Japanese community outside of Japan. We love this neighborhood. We get the best food. My children love it. So, this is like our favorite spot. But let me tell you, the aliens, the beings that are over there is no joke. The hieroglyphs, the Andromedan language that's on the buildings, it is absolutely nothing you've ever seen. So there's always a bit of contact. Brazil doesn't really hide it. I don't think they care. Just like I don't know if they care about what I was experiencing in Argentina with the elves. You know what I mean? I think that certain places just acknowledge it. And, as I'm driving through Liberdade, lo and behold, there's a whole Mason lounge next to a galactic alien lounge. Go figure that. So the aliens are coming to the Mason lounge to chill out and chill with the Masons, and then they're going next door to have a beer, some some cerveja, over with the aliens over in the next. It's crazy, y'all. It's buck wild in Brazil. Big up to all my Brazilians in the house. Okay, I love it. I'm driving through your beautiful country, and I will tell you, everyone, driving through Brazil is like driving in the land of everything. It is one of the biggest and most beautiful countries you can ever see. If they told you Brazil is like this big on a map, just know it's about this big, okay? We've been driving for like 8.5 hours and I still didn't make it to my destination. Brazil is massive and it is beautiful and it is nature unfettered, just raw. Like you've seen trees that you've never seen grow that erect. You've never seen bushes that grow with such vibrancy. You've never seen rolling hills with different textures of red soil and all these amazing different types of agriculture that they're growing. I mean, Brazil is something, and also they don't have the geoengineered cows that we have in the United States. Many of you know that's why when you eat beef in Brazil, they eat the cows, the white cows are like African cows. They're like, the ones with the horns are kind of different. That's a different genetic group. We eat the geoengineered cows. That's why most of us get sick. Brazil is about the real beef. So if you still eat meat, that's a place where they actually have natural organic cows that look like the original cow. Okay, the way it used to look. Kind of like a water buffalo, right? Wouldn't you think? Um, you said it, you trying to be my sugar. What you say, Nick? This is not after 12, Nick. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I said, I'm waiting until we get to 500, but I just want to say I really, really love Brazil. And thank you for welcoming me and my family again. I'm always appreciative of the country. Portuguese is becoming like part of our lingual pattern, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, Brazil, like I thank the other countries. But are we almost there? We're going to get into the topic, jumping domes and the galactic repatriation. Okay. And we should really get into this conversation, as you're going to need this. As what I notice is that, well, in other countries, I don't feel like they hide the extraterrestrial. I say that just very loosey goosey. Should I make my statement first so that YouTube leaves me alone? Okay, let me make my statement first. I am mentally ill. I am a trans frog, panda, bird. I am a trans gay Jewish man, white Jewish man, and a black man on payday. Okay, so if you have any issues with anything that's going on, you need to check all those labels and make sure. And also, I go by the terms. My pronouns are Z and Zer, Zer and Z, or Z and Z, or Z and Zer. It's one of those. It's all of those. Okay. So please do not refrain from calling me. If you call me frog, I will answer to you. If you call me panda, on a good day, I'll answer to you. If you say I'm a gay Jewish man, white man, I'm good. A gefilte fish and everything. Okay. If you say I'm a black man on payday and I'm going to the casino, that's right. Okay. But I am Zay and Zer to you. All right. So if we get that out of the way, YouTube, so that you leave me alone, please only refer to me as my pronouns or my, my alternate species, or okay. And I am a man. I am a gay, white Jewish man and a black man on payday. If you can't deal with that, then you need to go to another channel. Okay. I'm trying to help you out. All right. So those are I have to put that out there first. Okay. So let's get into the topic. And let me say this, for anyone who comes to the channel, you do know I'm being silly, right? Some people come on here, it's like, oh, I'm doing that purposefully. Anyone who's been here a long time, you understand and overstand that in order to make a video on YouTube, you basically have to check all the boxes before they leave you alone. Okay, so I'm trying to check every box there is so that YouTube leaves me the heck alone. Okay, love you, YouTube. Boo boo. Okay, so let's get into the topic. I think we're almost at 500. Let's get it in. So, I'm out of control. I'm really delirious here. I'm not supposed to be on. I need to be in bed because I got to drive another 8 hours tomorrow. Okay. But I'm here for the shenanigans because YouTube summoned me. You put fire underneath the fire sign's butt by deleting my video, you naughty channel. Anyway, so let's get into, the topic of jumping domes. So what I like to talk about is that, as many of you know, I've been traveling through South America over a month with my family. I always travel with my family. That's the only way I would travel, is with my family. I've been traveling through South America, also, going through the different zones and jumping domes. Now, many of you understand that I have a concept that every single country has its own unique dome. We're living under a firmament that covers the totality of the holographic simulation we call Earth. This isn't Earth. This is a simulated Earth, okay? It is made to look like a place that many of us recognize in our cellular memory, sometimes in our Akashic records. We have a memory of a type of Earth, but this isn't it. This is a simulation, okay? So in this simulation, there are multiple domes that have different types of frequencies, entities, different kinds of available resonance, okay? So every time you travel to a different country, you usually go under a different dome. There's like multiple domes within the dome, within the major dome that we're living under, which some of you would call the firmament. And what I understand is that as above, so below, we're all surrounded by water, almost like you ever see a snow globe, but actually the water's on the outside, okay? Or you want to call it plasma. Okay, remember I told you the only way in this realm is plasma in, plasma out. You know how the gang members say blood in, blood out? Plasma in, plasma out. How you come in here is through the plasma. Through your mother's womb, which is based in plasma. That's the waters, the salty waters, okay? And the only way you're leaving out is through the plasma, okay? So plasma in, plasma out. We're encased in kind of like a plasma liquid above and below. This is a simulation. Most of the people in here are NPCs. I noticed them when I was in Brazil again. Brazil has a lot of NPCs, just like a lot of other countries, just like our country does. How you know they're NPCs, I'll kind of go over this really quickly. NPCs have a tendency to just mimic things that are in the algorithm. They haven't any independent thought. They're just basically like holographic people who are initiated by the program, the AI program, as fillers. Okay, so they come in the space and they just uphold the agenda, kind of like when you have the how you can kind of identify them is every time there's a Mandela effect where you have a memory of something that was older, they only remember the newer information because they're only getting the updates. The Mandela effect is an update in the system, an AI matrix system. So every time there's a Mandela effect, there is an update in the system, and the NPCs always have the updates. They don't have the old information because they aren't from the original archives. They're only from the newer. So they only update their information, their new cellular information from the matrix AI system. Okay. So usually they mimic everything. They don't have independent thought. They follow everything. So a couple of the NPCs in Brazil were doing some things and they all did the same thing. The women all did the same thing. So and I don't know. Oh, let me ask somebody. Who's been to Sao Paulo lately? I don't know what happened, but there's been a shift. I don't know if the Lunars are gone or there's more brown people. Can someone vet this out? Because I felt like I was in a whole nother dome. But I got to Sao Paulo and all the brown people were all over the place. Now, I know Sao Paulo has one of the biggest populations outside of Africa over Salvador, which is in Brazil, which I found out more so later. I didn't know that previously. But I hadn't ever seen as many brown people, and I didn't see as many Lunars. So I don't know if they shifted the matrix. Maybe they added some fillers in there. So can someone vet that out for me? Did you notice that as well? And, let me know, okay? But if you ever get a chance to go to, I did get a chance to go to Jerky's. I want to give a shout out to Jerky's in Sao Paulo, which is the jerk chicken place, the only Jamaican jerk chicken place in Sao Paulo. So if you get a chance to go, I met the owner and his sister. They were absolutely amazing. I think it was Yusuf who recommended many years ago to go. If you go to Sao Paulo, go to Jerky's. I really love them. Very sweet. The food was really good. And I don't mess with chicken of mass destruction in United Fakes. The only time I'll touch it is outside the country because they actually have brown chickens with brown eyes that actually, look like what their original ancestors look like, more similar. But according to a lot of, YouTubers, they're actually dinosaurs. They're actually some sort of dinosaur. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic, okay? Usually flat earthers get into that. Let's get into the conversation. You haven't had a chicken in a while. I haven't had chicken in such a long time, but I wanted to give support to this amazing place. No tumor chicken for me. Yeah, the chickens have tumors on the side, which is crazy. It was actually another C-Star who shared that with us, that the reason why you shouldn't buy chicken parts in United Fakes, not only that they bleach it, but usually the part that they cut off is the tumor, and they'll give you the other part. So you can have a chicken that's tumor's been cut off, that chicken that you're still eating, but the tumor is on the other part of that chicken that they threw out and you didn't know it. And that's just the disgustingness, okay? And also you do understand and understand that all of the things that are in the United States are all totally infiltrated. If you want to get anything, I was just talking to a C-Star about this earlier. I'm going off topic. Okay, I'm just going to give you this. I'm off the chain. I'm on change today. So just understand and understand that you're going to get a little extra today because YouTube did it. You did it, YouTube. Okay, so if you want to get anything that hasn't been infiltrated, you would have to get it from Europe or from South America, where 100, I know in Europe it's 100, and I don't know if it's 158 different ingredients that they don't allow, that they ban in their products, or is it 120 something? Can someone verify? I think it's 128. But do understand that even an organic product that we get in the United States is way more diabolical and chemically ridden than anything you can get baseline in Europe or in South America. So I'm just putting that out there. So just for you know, because I know a lot of people were asking questions about things. And listen, I am a maniac. I'm an idiot. I'm a trans frog. So remember, none of this is relevant or true. Okay. All right. So let's get into the jumping the domes. So we're talking about jumping the domes. And I told you that every time that you leave the firmament, you leave your general country. I noticed that as soon as I leave the country, and I noticed this years ago, probably when I was younger, when I used to travel with my parents. But I obviously, with the awareness that I have now, I understand and understand that every time I left the country, I had a totally different biodome that was available to me, meaning that even in the dreamscape, there were different characters that weren't available to me in my dome in the United States. So whenever I would go into another country, vibration wise, it would feel totally different. They have different types of cymatics or different frequencies that they run in each of the domes, different environmental factors that are in each of the domes. And a dome has its layers. I mean, you get a country like Brazil that's massive, you're going to get different multiple layers within that dome. But you'll notice the difference when you jump the dome. So meaning, like, let's say you go to, I don't know, some of you go to like the Caribbean, right? Many of you like to go to Bahamas or Jamaica. You ever notice as soon as you get there, your dreams are different? There are characters in your dreams that weren't in the dream before, because you have a different simulated you have different simulated being options, meaning that when you're in the other dome, there are different beings that are optional in your dreamscape. So you'll notice that when you get into another dome, like let's say Jamaica, you'll have different people in your dreams. You're like, where do these people come from? I don't know these people. Or you'll have different elements in your dreams, things that you normally wouldn't have access to in the United States. So it's a different dreamscape, basically, with different what do you call it, sensory output, and also different what is it, like different what is it called, like programs, different programs. It's a different programs that are running. So jumping domes is like jumping into a different firmament. It's just a mini firmament because it's a different dome that has a different energetic field, that has a different microbiology, ecosystem that's working in it. Like Jamaica would have, maybe fresher air. The fruits are different. Remember the elementals. There are elementals in every realm. Like I met in Argentina with the Los Pinques. Pinques, I say it right this time, Pinques, which are the little elves that I met in Argentina, and I hadn't ever even known they existed. So in each of the domes, you have access to the different elementals and different beings and different energetic fields, okay? So jumping the dome is like jumping into another algorithm, okay? And what I say is a lot of times is, if you are tired of dealing with the constraints, the poisoning, the drama, maybe just the constant, gaslighting, you can always jump into a different dome that gives you a different energetic, has a different energetic field. And maybe those things aren't as present or prevalent in those domes. And how do you know the domes? Because they are isolated in that field doesn't cross over into the neighboring field. That's how you know it's a dome. So it's kind of like, it has its own it's terraformed. It has its own terraformed energetics inside of that dome. And why would it be important for you to jump the domes? Is because sometimes you need to have a break. Sometimes energetically, you may not even match the dome you're in. How do you know that that's the dome that you're meant to be in? Maybe that dome isn't cohesive to your body. Maybe your biosphere doesn't really match that dome. Maybe you've upgraded and you need a different type of environment that's more cohesive for the being that you've developed into. So sometimes jumping domes allows for you to experience new things that would be more in alignment with you. And I liken it to how I've been jumping into different countries. I've been in For the last month, I've been in a couple of countries. I think this is the fourth. Okay, so when you jump into each of the countries, I notice that I have a different energetic field. I have different access to different beings. My dreamscape is different. Obviously, my health changes based on whether it's conducive, is it healthier from the original dome. Now, many of you know that I call the United Fakes the Terra Dome. Okay, it is Dome X. It is the Terra Dome. It is 0 point. Why I say that is because the most awake that you are, the most awakened are in the United States. Most of the awakened have been birthed into that Terra Dome. Maybe because almost like a coal is shaped 50,000 times in order to produce a diamond. It's kind of like that. The consciousness in those in the United States tends to be a lot more elevated because of the amount of pressure and constant, constant, constantly pushing things and molding it and kind of making it develop into something more, 'cause trauma actually elevates things, which is, I don't like that it's like this in this particular time frame, but it actually elevates things. It changes and it metamorphosizes things. It transmutes it. So I personally think the reason why we see such a spike in high consciousness in United Fakes is because of all that pressure. Okay, it melds and molds some of the most conscious beings and unconscious beings. Okay, all in a wonderful goulash we call the United States. You have all different types of consciousness developed here, well, developed in the States because of all that wonderful, gaslighting. So I think it's beautiful in itself. As much as I talk about the States, I travel around the world, and what I notice is that the most I've seen of consciousness always comes from the States. Isn't that crazy? As much as we have the crazy, psychopathic, sociopathic, vampiric, demon, adrenochrome drinking, parasitic demons, satanic worshipers, we have just the opposite as well. We have a highly developed group of beings that are pretty much cultivated in that cauldron of chaos, and it allows for a certain consciousness to develop. So let me give a big up to y'all. It's crazy because when I travel, the consciousness does not match in other countries. I go places and I don't see that consciousness. People aren't aware of the things that are going on. They aren't aware of the basic things that most people in the United States that are conscious are hyper conscious. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be conscious in England, because I met a lot of people from the UK. They have consciousness that's high, heightened, hyper in awareness, or aware of things. I've met people in, obviously, in many of the different countries, Canada, mostly in the Western countries. Do you notice that as well, y'all? Can you guys, do you kind of see that? Mostly in Western countries. Because if you go into like Asia, there's not that consciousness there. Now, Japan does have that because we have M, and we have Alex, we have Angie. They're Japanese, and we do see like certain whistleblowers. We get privy to certain whistleblowers that are in Japan. So Japan does have an underbelly of consciousness that spikes up. And as you heard, that I was staying in Sao Paulo. I've left since. I'm in Belo Horizonte. I'm in Belo Horizonte. But I was staying in close by to the little mini Japan in Sao Paulo. And there is an undertone of consciousness. It's different though, but there is something there. So within that Asiatic group, there might be that underbelly, and there might be other groups too, especially the ones that are targeted, like the Vietnamese, the Cambodians, the ones that are most targeted by the United Fakes and all of the Western countries, all the wonderful governments who love them. Because look what they did to Japan, and look what they did to the Japanese Americans, locking them in freedom cities, concentration camps, and these were citizens, y'all. And that wasn't too long ago. That was in the same generation. They locked them up when that whole bombing happened, right? Okay, so they didn't really. They tended to target. I feel like the United States and other Western countries target specific communities that might have some underbelly of consciousness that they're not letting us know. They'll say, oh, they're awful people. Oh, the Japanese, they were thinking of bombing the Pearl Harbor. Oh my God. Or the Vietnamese, you know, they're just terrible people. We got to go over there and put Agent Orange on them. Oh, the Cambodians are crazy because they worship all the dragon people and all those aliens are flying in the sky over in Vietnam. So why do they target specific groups? Ever notice that? And the domes are different. So always add that, because I always say, like, I think that within the realm of consciousness, you'll see little underbelly of consciousness in certain communities, but it isn't in most. Okay, you'll go to certain places, there's no consciousness, and you're like, why don't they have consciousness there? Because there's probably a whole system of NPCs and filling space. Like a lot of, I think many of you don't realize, even when you go into the other domes, there's probably a very low population in those domes until you arrive. You ever go to a drive-through or a restaurant or a store and no one's in there until you step in, and then all of a sudden an alarm goes off and all of the Sims come in? You ever notice that? You ever go into a department store and you go shopping, it's like, oh, where's all the people? And then all of a sudden, ding, 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 the alarm, you know how you play the Sims game? The Sim light goes off, and then all these artificial beings, these NPCs start filling up the space. Those are fillers, okay? Those are NPCs. Those are simulator actors, okay? You ever play a video game? Okay, they have only a certain amount of data that they can be activated with interaction, but it's very limited. Okay, and they're just there to fill in the space so that you think that you're living in a real world. This is a fake world. Most people aren't even real. They're not real. They're fake. They're simulated people. They're artificial fillers. They're the original empty seaters. Okay? Okay, so a lot of times you're interacting with people that aren't real. And that's why you shouldn't take things too personally. Because if you talk to them for a while and you start to realize that all they do is loop when you speak to them, it's the same thing. Ever meet someone and you're like, you meet them 10 years later, it's the same thing? That's an NPC. That's a looper. Anybody who loops like that constantly, it could be a different day, different scenario, but the same loop. That's an NPC, that's a filler. Okay, so when you go inside of these different domes, you're going to experience different types of beings that are available to you in the database in that dome. Now, why do I bring this up? Because when I bring this up in terms of the repatriation, the galactic repatriation, this is part of the jumping that's necessary in order to up level you. Now, remember, I was encouraging everyone to get the heck out of the United States, even though it was the catalyst to your awareness. Why? Is because you'll notice that when you leave the United States, your whole body feels better. Your hair becomes healthier. You might even want to engage in physical activity with others. You might even want to eat the food and it doesn't hurt your tummy. Okay, you can actually, see a little better, hear a little better. Everything turns out a little better. When you go into different domes, you do have a different kind of activation. Okay, and domes don't have to be, you don't have to go really far, but being able to activate another part of I almost feel like it activates part of your codons when you jump domes. So you get a little activation that turns something on or off as needed, right? As necessary, okay? So part of jumping domes also allows for easier repatriation into the galactic brethrenhood or sisterhood, rather, right? Because with the galactic sectors, a lot of our prejudices and biases are based in limitation as in our human form. Okay, these biases that are probably socially engineered or sometimes cellularly input during your youth years, your younger years. Okay, when you go to a doctor and they go, bah, 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 bah. They probably insert some, caps in your system, and it could be a generational cap through your DNA, your lineage, that was meant to make you hyper prejudiced, because part of being prejudiced is a limitation within the galactic field. Because if you overstood and understood that we have been everything, and in the other realms, there are so many different types of beings of all kinds of different phenotypes, energetic fields. Some are non-corporeal. They don't have form. They're just like light beings. You would have to have a overstanding of that, and a lack of judgment coming from base prejudices that were socially engineered. We all have it. Do not get mad at yourself, because I am just on that bandwagon. We have all been socially engineered to have some smaller biases and stronger biases. That is part of the limitation. In order to be galactically repatriated, you have to rid of those, because in the bigger scheme of things, there are so many different placements outside of here with beings beyond our comprehension, beyond our limited mind would accept, that having those base prejudices with human to human, oh, she has dark skin. Oh, she has light skin. Oh my God, she has big boobs. Oh my God, she has small feet. Oh my God, she's tall and skinny. Oh my God, she's fat and round. Oh, he's such a weird looking guy. Those are prejudices that are based in our lower mindset, like almost like primitive mindset. Things that have primitive mindset have hyper amount of biases. When we start getting to the point where we go into, that's why I say jumping domes, going into other fields where you're interfacing with different beings and other people of different backgrounds, it helps to unlock codons that would leave you limited socially. Like I would say, like when I was younger, there were a lot of like the brown youth, like my mom had me in the big sister club, which I, at the time, I don't think I minded. My mom was a big proponent of, you know, being the change you wanted to see. And she felt like it was good for me to mentor young girls. And also for me to reflect on myself through them. I thought it was healthy. It was actually quite nice. It wasn't for a long time, but what I realized is that in my suggestion to these young girls, a lot of them were suffering from really low self-esteem and really base biases that were sometimes socially engineered in their environment, governmentally, by constantly having perpetuated pictures and images of them that were constantly showing them as hypersexed or lower IQ or more primitive in behavior. But all I would suggest to them when they got older is I said, listen, United States is not the only place there is. And you can see images of yourself in Africa as the head of the country, as a banker, as a lawyer, as a huntsman, as as a Maasai. You can see yourself as everything in an environment like that. So just limiting yourself to United States, I suggested to them that they travel so that they can break some of those social engineering purposeful propaganda that is meant to make them feel a certain way about themselves. And I would always encourage young girls, listen, go outside of that. Like if you get a chance to do like what was it, something of Habitat, or you can do stuff like that, go travel, go to Jamaica, go to the Caribbean, see places and images of people who look like you, who are in all different positions, so that you can break the curse of thinking that you're one thing, that you're a slave, that you're unworthy, that you're coming from lesser people, that all you were was doing something and you're only going to be a criminal. Those are all socially engineered concepts that work well within a governmental system to keep people constantly feeling like victims. And I was always suggest them as a little girl, as a young lady, to some of my young sisters that I was placed in a program with, and a couple of them actually took up on that, and actually they're doing really well in some of the other countries. One is actually doing something in Canada, doing something what is it, like voice, she was a really good singer, something vocally with young girls of color, what is it, like she's doing something singing with girls of color, and she actually did that. She ended up doing a program, I think in Ontario County in Canada, with children of color, and I thought that was really great. But she stepped out of her comfort zone, she jumped domes, and she found that the lies or the imprint or the socially engineered conditioning of one dome did not determine how you would feel in another dome. So jumping domes does help. So if you've ever felt like you were marginalized, or you felt a certain way about how they perpetuate women, how they make us feel a certain way, going into another dome also, of a dome where you have lesser control over being a woman, or in a more patriarchal world, will also make you appreciate yourself well. Because it's not just going and jumping in domes that you are the progenitor of everything and perfect. No, sometimes going into dome where you have a lesser position, where you're coming from a position where you have you're in a higher hierarchy, you actually learn to appreciate being a woman. So sometimes jumping into a patriarchal world where you have less rights, where you aren't allowed to be yourself, where you aren't allowed to really express express yourself freely without censure, or you aren't seeing that, sometimes it makes you appreciate the dome that you came from. So jumping domes is not just about going into an elevated field. Sometimes going into a lower field, or field that's more generates something different, actually allows for you to appreciate and to elevate the things that you didn't know were special or wonderful about yourself. So when I talk about jumping domes, I'm not talking about the firmament. When we talk about the firmament, I always speak about there's coming a day when, real soon, the pole shift is right around the corner, where we are going to, for some who choose, it's all a choice. This is not, you aren't a victim here. In this program, we have a lot of parasites, yes. You ever see how all those, you know, when you have to clean your system, your computer system, you have to clean your computer system from bugs. It's kind of like that in this firmament. So you have all these bugs and parasites. You got to occasionally clear them out because this is part of the program. Like the program also tracks like certain kind of bugs. I told you we were ran by insectoids, but nobody believed me. And you have to clear that out every once in a while, right? But in the same point, you have to understand that we're about to go through reset, and it's already starting. Like, this is nothing I can make up. Like, years ago, you're like, ha, 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 FleurBrun, you're so full of it. You're fear baiting. Oh, do I look like I'm fear baiting now with everything that's happened, that's come to pass? Okay. We're going through reset. And part of reset is purging and clearing and getting yourself to the point where you have an awareness and a mindset and your heart is really light, where you purged all those aspects of yourself that weren't healthy and were heavy. And it's hard. Don't get it twisted. I'm one of you. There's nothing listen, as many of you watch me over the years, I've made mistakes. I've done great things. I've done things that I would redo if I could, but everything has made me into the person I am now. Okay? The things that I felt would really harm me, or I felt were hindrances in my life, are the very things that many of you enjoy about me today. It just made me into a better person. And jumping domes and going into different fields with different energetic beings. Like a lot of times in Brazil, people are like, why do you keep returning to Brazil? Because the beings here are receptive to me. They communicated with me without any hesitancy. And because they look so different, and in our social structure, the beings that I encountered in Brazil were beings that on every TV show you would think are goblins or monsters. So now I realized after I met how beautiful they were, how wonderful and receptive, and how helpful they were. I realized that all those images that they put in dastardly images and make them seem scary, a lot of those images are beings that are really sweet and kind. And these are not the goblins and the monsters that you think. The goblins and the monsters that you probably know are pretty and beautiful and have all that kind of cosmetic surgery. The ones that look like goblins and so on are not what you think. I'm not saying every being that looks hideous or what we perceive to be hideous, because I want to watch what I say, is wonderful. But what I realized is the beings that I met in Brazil, remember I told you they look gelatinous, like a white kind of gelatinous beings, almost like from the Lord of the Rings, like Schmedley, like very, very goblin kind of look. In that itself, you know what's interesting? That they make that entity seem so hideous. What's his name again in Lord of the Rings? Do you know his name, y'all? What's his name again? Oh gosh, if anybody knows his name, can you guys what's his name? That's the one who was with the ring. Remember? Smeagol. They made him the most hideous, disgusting. But the beings that I met have a very similar energetic field, and they don't have that energy at all. It makes me think like Dobby. Remember Dobby from Harry Potter? Dobby was like really pathetic. Why do they make certain beings look so way? Why do they demonize? You got to be careful when they generate these images and put negative connotations on them. Because in them itself, like when I met the beings in Brazil, and I think I talked about it, they were kind of gelatinous, kind of like white, kind of gelatinous, kind of ghoulish, kind of like Schmeagol. But they were really sweet and kind. They come from another world. It's 3 of them. They had a ship that's, I'm not going to say where it is, but it's in Brazil where I was, and they had a ship there. And they weren't used, when I came, they knew energetically I was something different. I told you there's NPCs all over the place. So when a real player character comes of a certain energetic field, they know, just like the elves knew when I came. Okay, they sense it and they come and they want to meet that. They're interested. They're intrigued by it. But when I met those beings, they had such a look that in my world, I realized that everything that our government or our social media generates as negative, we got to be careful with that, because a lot of times those are not negative beings. They show them as that. So you have to think of all the people in our historical accounts that have been demonized. And I won't name them, but you know who I'm talking about. You got to think of all of the beings that have been constantly just talked about dastardly and made to seem like they're awful. You got to question that. Perhaps they want you to feel that way. So when you come across these beings, you already have a hesitancy, or you already have a presumption. That's what I'm saying. Our biases are really our handicap. That's like our Achilles heel. Like my biases have been my biggest Achilles heel. Like the times that I've had the hardest times in my life have been because I've had biases, like slight prejudices or biases or you know what I mean? Like those are the things that have literally made my life worse or harder. So that's how you know that you have to generate your own thoughts from your own reality and your own interface. I would have never known that until I met the beings in Brazil. And it was jumping domes that did it. It was jumping into a dome that I did not have a presence in. I had family that was in the dome. I talked about my grandmothers who were caught in a field in the dome above, living in a artificial world of like loops. But I didn't have a connection until I stepped into the dome. And when I stepped into the dome, these beings accessed me immediately. And what it did is it up-leveled me. It opened up my codons, the things that I was able to take in, information that I was able to obtain that I was unwilling to before or unable to, that I had access to by jumping domes. And that in itself is a repatriation into the galactic field. Because repatriation is letting go of those base things. Whatever you're in this dome for, whatever you came into this firmament for, you had to, whether it's a test, whether it's like going into the gladiator field when you're in here to see how you overcome certain things, how many lifetimes you have to go overcome those things so that you can basically have a higher functioning consciousness outside of the dome, however this shows up. But literally, when you're able to go into each of the domes and access different beings or have the beings access you and interface with people who speak different languages, different complexions, different looks, different phenotypes, and have a lesser form of bias and understanding and opening and receptivity to understanding their culture, interfacing with different beings, and having a level of compassion, love, and connectivity to others. That's all part of the up-leveling. That's all part of the repatriation. We aren't going to be repatriated into any galactic field because we're dirty birdies. Dirty birds. Chicken and mass destruction, right? Dirty birds. Because if you have all these prejudices, who would let us in? Listen, they're locking the spaceships as they go past our neighborhood, up in the hood, over here in this sector of the holographic field. They're locking it. Because we're out of control. You know what I mean? Oh, if you're not Christian, you're the demon. Oh, if you don't worship Jesus Christ, you're going to hell. Oh my God, if you're not worshiping and praying 5 times a day, you're just not a good Muslim. Oh my God, if you're not Jewish, then you're nothing. You're a golem. Oh my God, if you're not wealthy and don't have all these Birkin bags, you're just a busted chick. I mean, how many prejudices do we have? Oh, she's fat. She can't be smart. She's a fatty. She doesn't like herself. Oh my God, she's so skinny. She's starving herself. She's like a crackhead. I mean, how many prejudices do we talk about all the time? Even when I'm talking about the holographic present pooping on himself, that's a level of judgment. You know that, right? That's a level of judgment, because really in itself, if we take him out of the we know what he is, okay? But if you take the pseudo president, because he isn't my president. That's all I'm saying. If we take him out of the scheme and you just look at him as an elderly man going through pre-dementia, you would have a level of compassion. Because you know what's interesting during that whole, I don't know if you guys watch, because we were amused and it wasn't right, y'all. We were amused. I think me and the Zombies were on. We watched it live, the debate, and it was purposefully done. It was just tragic, y'all. It's very terrible. But you know what I noticed? My children, when they saw it, they felt bad for him. Do you see how great? Do you see how perfect children can be, though? They felt bad for him. They didn't see him as this diabolical pedophile and da 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 whatever. They saw him as a man struggling to keep his composure. He was losing his ability to hold concentration. They saw him as like being a grandfather or being someone's grandparent and feeling sad for him and having a level of compassion. That's how children, my children, saw it. When they saw it, they didn't really think it like we thought it was funny because we know all the backdrop. But do you see how green, how pure that is? That level of compassion coming from just not prejudice, not anything, not seeing him as anything other than a man who needed help and was in a very difficult situation. And I had to pull back and understand that light, that wonderful way of seeing that was a healthy disposition. Okay. And I think children, we should allow them to have that greenness about them, you know what I mean? Without inserting our own, because I have my own opinions, right? And I could just say, no, this is that, but I understood it. And I had a level of compassion and say, you know what? I understand. You're right. It's very sad. And I hope he's able to get help. We have to allow that because in our judgment, we're the ones who are lower. That's why they try to get to the children, right? Okay, that's why they try to demonize to get the children young and ruin their minds and taint them and muddy them by putting all these hypersexual things on television, doing all that. Because if they can do that, they can literally litter our dome with lower vibrations. Because the children are the ones who matter the most. Those are the ones who have the least amount of time being socially engineered and MK Ultra'd. Those are the ones coming directly from source and having that beautiful non-judgment. You ever see children? You ever see children that haven't ever been taught anything crazy? I've seen children, my mom's a teacher, but I've seen children that hadn't ever seen brown or like a very fair skinned person or a dark skinned person, a child, and they come together and they just come together and they hold hands and they feel each other's hands because one is very light and the other one's very dark, and they feel each other's hand and they giggle. How sweet is that? Then we ruin them, right? Oh, he's a black man. Don't talk to him. He's going to be a criminal. He's directly going to prison. Or don't talk to her. She's a white woman. She's going to be awful. She's going to be, she's going to be egregious and treat you like you understand? So do you understand? We give that to them. We put that in them. They wouldn't know anything like that. How would they know? Little brown child and a little lunar child putting hands, and they see each other and all they see is like the beauty in each other and the fun in it and the giggle in it. So all I'm saying is that it's time for you to jump domes. Get a little feel of different places and be able to get out of the restriction of the dome. This is the terror dome. And if you've been terrorized for too long, you know you suffer from PTSD. What is it? PTSD? PTSD. Post-traumatic stress syndrome. If you're staying in the United States for too long, even though your consciousness is high, you're going to have high blood pressure, weight issues, hormone issues. You may not want to have sex. You may want to have too much sex. You may have to drink every night. You may have to smoke weed all the time. You may have to keep taking every type of parasite cleansing, enzyme, cleaner. I mean, how much do you want to do? You may want to take a break. And I know I've encouraged people to leave, but why not? And, big up to Marie for saying this. And I really appreciate it, Earth sign, because Earth signs are way more balanced than, especially a triple Sag, because I'm all about action. Look, I'm driving all around Brazil, y'all. I'm in Brazil driving around the country. You know what I mean? I'm a fire sign. I'm always in action. But I could appreciate when an Earth sign says, there isn't anything wrong about getting a little clean and then coming back to your comfort. Why not just go and take a break and get a different feel, a different energetic field, be exposed to new energetics, new types of energies, new frequencies, healthiness. So if your country isn't healthy, and I told you, like I was in South America over in Argentina and Chile, I hadn't ever drank water out of a tap my entire life until I got to Argentina, where the water was so pure that my children said, Mommy, you told us our whole lives never to drink out of the tap. You're telling us the opposite. I'm telling them, baby, I was telling you not to, but we should be able to. You understand? I was telling them not to do it because the water that they have in the States is toxic, but I'm going and drinking out of a faucet that tasted better than any water I've ever tasted. I jumped into a dome where I could heal aspects of myself. It's time. It's time to do those things that you were nervous about, and you're going to be okay. And you may not want to stay outside the dome, out of the terror dome. Maybe you just want a break. Maybe you just need a health break. Maybe you just need a mental a respite from dealing with Willy Wonka and his League of Doom, battling them all the time. Maybe you just need a break. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you don't have to go too far. Some of you can go just a little bit outside of your dome. Maybe there's a place in your dome that you can just go that's a little different from the placement where you are in your dome. But it's necessary to have a little bit of that respite in order to have a different mindset triggered within you. Being too complicit and apathetic will leave you to be, what does it say? Like atrophy is your biggest way that you know you're going to die. You being frigid and kind of stuck, that isn't healthy. Take a little break. If you live over in the mountains, go down to the flatlands. If you're living over in the desert, go to the ocean and to the lakes. If you're living over in the grasslands, go somewhere a little drier. Trigger your body to start to open up different codons. That's how we do it. The polarities actually triggers that in us. So when you trigger that, even if you don't go outside of the terror dome, but you go into other aspects of the polarities within your world in that dome, it's going to trigger things inside of you to wake up or to see something or to experience something different, to make you change or to alter things or to see things from a different position. Okay. So I have to really say to yourself, you got to thank YouTube for conjuring me out of my travel mindset. I don't like to do YouTube videos when I'm traveling, especially if I'm like in the midst of traveling from, throughout a country. But I want to say, like, it's very important, I think, at this time for the repatriation to happen easier, for us to drop. And I say us. Remember, I am not above you. I am quite flawed in all my ways. I told you I am Petty Betty today. That's why I'm here on YouTube. I am Petty Betty, okay? So I have to learn certain things about myself, and the ways that I do it is going into countries where I see people who look like me who aren't allotted the same privileges as me. Sometimes, I told you, when you jump into another dome and you see people who look like you, who haven't the same privileges as you in your original dome, it makes you appreciate what you have where you came from. So that, it's necessary for sometimes for us to be triggered into that awareness. And I jump domes often because I am a travel buff. I do love it going into South America. And because my ancestors came from this neck of the woods, it feels very good. But I also say to you all the time, in the last video, I told you, Americas is your home. And you notice I said Americas. Many of you don't realize that you're in America, the USA, but the Americas is a continent. That is your home. You aren't limited to just North America. You can go and visit Central and South and the Caribbean, because that is all of your home. So why not step out of that and go and visit places within your continent? People will say, oh, like I said, I always compare Africa because Africa is such a beautiful, big continent. And people say, oh, they're African. We're Americas. We're the people of the Americas. Okay? And because you're from the Americas, you have a right and a privilege to enjoy. Why are you just limited to one aspect of your continent when you have a plethora of other places to enjoy that are different domes that will give you different aspects of things that you may need right now? Okay? So it's time. Jump off of your comfort zone. Take a little break. It doesn't say you have to stay somewhere. And this is where I say thank you, Marie, because I needed to hear that message from Marie earlier. Sometimes I say I love to travel, but I tell you, I do enjoy coming back to the States after I travel a bit, because that is where I was reared in the United States. So I still have a comfort and a love for the very origin and the place that I was birthed. But I'm okay when it isn't doing things that I feel that are in alignment with me, jumping out into my Americas and going and getting those things that I feel are more helpful for me or just to explore. Okay? So I thought that was a good, I was gonna talk about more things that are diabolical, like, you know, what do you think is gonna happen on 119 days, y'all? Do you want me to touch base? I know I'm gonna talk to the Zombies on Thursday. Zombies, I'm gonna talk to you Thursday traveling though. So Zoom, for anyone who joins me on Zoom, if you want to see specific places that I go or you hear, you can always join us on Zoom on Thursday. But Thursday, the Zombies will kind of be traveling with me a little bit. Give me a little time. Give me a little company while I'm traveling. Okay, so Zombies, you'll be on with me traveling, but if you want to join with that. But, in 119 days, there's going to be a shift. I actually think, and remember last time I spoke to you, I personally think that, yes, Jupiter Day, right? It's such a Sag day. I talked about the fact that Willy Wonka and his league are up to no good. And they have so many plans, y'all. It's insane. That's why I occasionally have to leave the States with my family to kind of reset myself to get ready for the shenanigans of a lifetime. Listen, you think Barnum and Bailey Circus had anything? Oh no, darling. Oh, Willy Wonka and that president. I'm not gonna say he's pooping because I'm trying to behave myself. I said I was petty. Listen, they got false flags all over the place, and I am correct in my numbers. I will say to the C stars, as before, do know that it's important for every woman to start. I looked at the numbers, y'all, and I was right. And I didn't want to be right about the assassination of women worldwide. I can look at the numbers in the States and it has spiked astronomically and it is not being denoted publicly. All you'll see is Big Atora C Star in our group who talked about all of these weird deaths of happening to like women, the children, families, women being killed like randomly. They're not telling you this in a grandiose way. They're putting it in local news, but they're not making it bigger. So what's happening is that there's a lot of women that are being picked off, and it's already happening in Africa. Because I had to think about it. I was like, oh, because when the elf said, why am I not hiding? Because it's supposed to happen around now. That it already is. Look what's happening in Sudan. Look what's happening over in Africa, in Congo. All those women and children that are dead. It's already happened. See, we don't think of it in terms like that because, you'd be like, but if you look at the ratio of men to women, you're going to see is a higher spike in women and children that die. Look at all these environments where the women and children are the number one target. And all wars, if you ever notice wars, like look what happened in Israel on October 7th. Who did they mostly kill? Do you remember that, y'all? They mostly killed the women and the children. They took the children. So you got to think of things like that. Like why would that be the primary thing to go get? Because women and children are always going to be the victims of war. It may be men that fight it or instigate it or whatever the case is, but it's always women and children that they go after. Do you understand? So you got to pay attention, my young and seasoned sea stars. Pay attention. It is happening. I didn't want it to be happening, but if you look at your local numbers, you're going to be stunned. It's happening now. So we know before the pole shift, that is something, the witch hunt is happening. And I noticed that they're trying to, in the simulation, because we talked about it last time, they were like, oh, it's a witch hunt. All of a sudden, all this witch hunt language is coming up. Okay? Protect the children and the women. And women, I talked about us being responsible for our own kin, for our own sea stars. We have to do that. And that's not to say men wouldn't, but I think it's our responsibility as women and the matrons of this simulated earth to protect each other and our children and your children. It's nobody else's responsibility. We can't put that ownership on anyone else. It's not their job. It would be nice It'd be great. Oh yes, I would welcome the help and the protection, but it isn't anyone else's job but ours. Okay? It's important for you to pay attention. And with this election in less than 100 and I think it's 117 days, the false flags are going to be off the freaking chain. Now, predictions are there may not even be a vote. There may not even be an election. It might be now, if I was a betting woman, you know, I would say this. I would say they're going to replace, I'm not going to say it because my children won't hear me. Okay. They're going to replace, you know who. Trying to behave myself. Trying to behave myself. They're going to replace him. I think they're going to replace him with Mr. Kamala, temporary, and say maybe maybe he fell on his toe, maybe he couldn't get off the toilet. I don't know what it is. Okay, they're gonna replace him. I think that's what they're gonna do first, and I think there's gonna be some sort of like false flag war, like hitting nuclear or some craziness to distract us. I don't think it's all real. I think it's all planned and orchestrated. I think in order for the election not to happen, and for them to keep it on, I think they would have to postpone it. And I think in order for that to happen, the only way, and you guys can correct me because some of you are veterans, you would know more, but the only way that an election wouldn't happen is during a war, right? If we had a ballistic missile hit, if we had some false, and it'll be our own government who does it. This is my opinion. I could be wrong, but I'm a psychopath, right? I'm a trans frog and a trans gay Jewish white man and a black man on payday. So you can't really just take it with a grain of salt. But I'm just saying I would think that they would have to do that in order for we have veterans in here. Would it be that? It would have to be that martial law, right? That's the only way the election would go. I think they're going to do something right before it. And I think it's going to be close enough. It can't be too far out. Because people are like, oh, it'd be July 4th. It wouldn't be that far out because there's no guarantee for non-election. It has to be close enough. Could it be the October surprise we always hear about? The October to remember, right? October. I think if anything happens, it would have to be October. That's just, if I'm a betting woman, I could be wrong. I could be wrong about Mr. Kamala. Okay. I could be wrong about them doing that, but I don't think we're going to have an election. I think they're going to make sure that we don't. I think that's the number one goal because they don't want to make it to election. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Or they're going to do something like, trigger like civil war through, another fake ballot, ballots missing, what was it? If Sharpie Gate, remember Arizona had Sharpie Gate? They were using Sharpies to do their votes. Sharpie Gate might happen, dead people voting, all these immigrants would have the rights to vote, something like that, and then you have a whole civil war. It's going to be something crazy. And that's why I say take a moment in time, because these are mentally ill people. Ribbit. Just take a moment in time to refresh yourself. You're going to have to fill your tanks right now. I think this is a very important time for everyone to get your tanks filled. You know what I'm saying? If you're running on empty right now, go into another dome or go into your own dome and go into another place and get refilled. Because you're going to need all the energy you need because Willy Wonka's bringing everything out. He's bringing it all. This is reset, y'all. And the pole shift is coming right around the corner. As soon as the war is going to kick, the pole shift happens. So I just say this. Just refill your tank. Get yourself healthy, watch your children and other women. We talked about being supporters of women, being our sisters' keepers of all the ethnicities and backgrounds to make sure that we are safe because there is a witch hunt and the witches are us. Why, I'm not a witch at all. Remember, she was like, Dorothy was like, are you the wicked witch? What did she say? Are you? Because she killed the wicked witch of the West, right? And she was like, are you a witch? She was like, well, I'm not a witch at all. You know what I mean? So it's important because the witch hunt is happening. Okay. And that being said, it's important for each one of you to take, credence. And also for our sun stars, I say for you, you're not out of it. You too, because I think a lot of sun stars don't give them enough nourishment. I think a lot of men don't take care of themselves enough. You are deserving as well. Sun stars, you are deserving to take time out of your life, not to do things like, I think men think that, going and having a beer with the guys, watching a game, going to have sex. That's not relaxing. Just taking time for yourself. If you like to go sit and fish and sit on the lake, go sit down. If some of the gentlemen, you guys have to refill yourself as well. You have to refill your tank. I think men are also struggling with a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, because remember, men are being hyper feminized. They're feeling like their manhood is being threatened, so they have a lot of stressors. So for sun stars, start taking care of yourself. Start really taking time for you specifically, just time for you. And it doesn't mean you have to incorporate anybody else. If you want to, that's fine. But just taking time to take care of yourself and do things that are harmonious with you and allow you to grow as a man and to have independent connections without it being linked to something physical or materialistic. You know what I mean? I think that's what's being pushed a lot to males, to have everything outside of yourself, always looking outside of yourself to get validation. You don't. You don't. And we need you. We would like to have healthy men to be helpful and protective. And when I speak to women, please feel refrain from feeling like I'm attacking you, because I'm empowering women. I'm empowering us to be more communal together. That only helps you. When women are healthy and harmonic, we build nations that are strong and powerful, and you benefit the most because we help you, we hold you, we actually will fill you, will fill more into your life that's more healthier. Okay, a stressful woman, a woman is stressed and that doesn't feel protected, she's not someone who can even help a structure. She has to feel like she's supported. Okay, so supporting a woman's self-esteem and supporting her feeling protected, it only benefits men at the end of the day. Okay, I hope you know that. We do need that. And it doesn't say that we don't need you. We're saying we're going to take care of each other because we aren't going to rely on you. But if you're around and you're helpful, believe me, it benefits you as well. Okay. The towers. Oh yes, y'all. And also, let me talk about real quick. I don't want to keep your time too much, but I also want to talk about the fact that they're doing pulse waves at 9/11 every night. So if you are getting these weird feelings at nighttime, you have to start to ground. We have grounding sheets. Start grounding yourself at night. You're going to have to do that. They're pulsing these frequencies with listen, the one thing I will say, Willy Wonka and his League of Doom. Okay, wait. Okay, I have a question here. Hold on. I want to answer that. How can we help for us who are residing in primitive African countries like Nambia in terms of cleansing and so forth? Well, what you can do is, primitive also is pure. Primitive can also be having, even though primitive has been demonized because of the consciousness of the people. I'm assuming that's what you mean. People don't have an awareness. Having, like, because you're so close to nature, and Africa is the most resourceful continent probably on a whole, inside the whole firmament, getting a moment in time where you can go in, kind of self-isolate a little bit, clay yourself, because remember, that's the earth. Bring more earth to you. If you're in a primitive situation, you have to go with what you have access to by, taking herb baths, putting herbs, going out in the elements, taking a bath out in the open, if you can, safely. I don't want you to put yourself at risk. Taking a bath of herbs, like fresh herbs in a bath, under the sky, open sky, cleansing yourself, taking mud like your ancestors used to do, put it all over your body. That's a form of grounding, putting it on you, and humming, and like whoo, like using toning sounds. That whatever's primitive, when we say primitive, it isn't always negative. That's bringing back the primal force in us and using the harmony that you have access to in Namibia, beyond anything we have access to. You have access to soil that is ancient, that has tons of wonderful nourishment and microbiology working all in it, that can work with your whole cellular component. So whenever you feel like you're lost a little bit, or you feel like you're out of it, ground yourself with the wonderful clay, cover yourself like ancestors did, and just maybe sit in the forest or sit by a tree like that, if you can, safely as a woman. Again, you're in a world where I don't know how men feel, you know, if you were more of a even more tribal based, nudity wouldn't be an issue. But if you can go by a tree, have clay on you, kneel in front of a tree and start making toning sounds, you know, you speak to the elementals in your neck of the woods, they talk to you. Those are the elementals that are the ancients that can have communication with you. Start connecting to them. Primitive isn't always negative. It could be the primitive in people. And also, I don't call people that are hyper religious primitive. Those are people under heavy mind control. So if you're saying primitive, like they're really religious, religion is a form of mind control programming. It's like a corporation kind of thing. So that's not primitive. That's just people under mind control. Okay. So, because I know a lot of people use primitive and talking about people that are like big into Jesus. And there's nothing wrong. Listen, if you love Jesus and he is your personal savior and he's your king, by all means, keep it. Do that. If you feel like that's for you. But I'm just saying that is a form of cap, because you're putting something outside of yourself and putting it in full control of you. So it's important for you to kind of break that glass ceiling and go beyond an entity's control. Jesus is a figure, Christ, it's an energy that people hold hostage to themselves or their consciousness. There's a time and place for religion for some that need that up leveling of spirituality. But once you graduate that up leveling, those entities, energies are graduated out of. You kind of break the glass ceiling and go above and beyond that. Okay? Religion is just a construct of social engineering. It is meant to keep people in a position of always giving credence and consideration and honor to something outside of themselves. So when you do that, you take the control out of your hands. You take actually your own accountability out of your hands, and you put it on an artificial source. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. I love that you're in beautiful in your beautiful country. And primitive, that's not always negative. Having access to the beauty and the purity and the ancestors and the elementals that you have access to are mind blowing. You have way more access to things that we in this firmament and even our domes don't have access to. Take advantage of that. If you didn't know they existed, now I'm letting you know. Namibia is that's why the Germans had colonized Namibia. How come the Germans didn't colonize anywhere else? The Germans colonized Namibia because it had powerful energies and elementals. Okay? If you notice, the Germans are really, really smart, very powerful people who have the awareness from the aliens that they were in contact with, and they knew what energetic fields and what domes to go into in order to capture some of that energy for themselves, to up level themselves. Namibia was one of them. Okay. Anywhere where the Germans go, that's where you understand that they already had that intel and they take advantage of that. Okay. So Namibia is one of that. So I hope you get a chance to take it, to use those beautiful energies and also to contact the elementals. You have to be pure. You can't be under constraint of religion, because religion again, and when entities are interfacing with you and they see that you're under that mind control, they may not want to connect with you, because they know that interfacing with them, they might be called demons. They might be called devils or spirits, negative spirits. So a lot of times they stopped interfacing with people that are really strong into religious dogma, because they know that those people, once they start interacting with the elementals, will automatically be demonized. Okay. So I hope that was helpful, Sea Star. Okay. Anybody else had a question about anything or comment? And again, I'm gonna try to put that video up. I can't do it when I'm away. I'll put the video up on Patreon that they took down yeah, it is Cancer season, right, Emoji? That's that personal, yeah, that's that energy, right? That energy. Powerful energy. People are really feeling it. Just everyone try to ground yourself. I was talking about the grounding and everything. Make sure you ground yourself. I think we're going to discuss, I'm going to discuss some other things Thursday, because there's so many things that I'm learning. Like I said, I'm back in the Brazil Dome. y'all. It's just, I'm learning. Everything is coming back. Everything's just, it's amazing. And I know why I keep coming here, because every time I get activated and I get more gems and more gems, and I give them to you. I do. So I'm going to go. But again, you can join us on Thursday if you like. It's helpful. If you want to know about the traveling and everything, you can also join and listen to that if you desire to do that. But again, I love Marie for you know for sharing the fact in her Capricorn fashion is that people sometimes just need a break. And by dipping into another dome and jumping into another dome to give yourself a break and give yourself some healing and some well-needed vibrations. And like I said, I'm going to give some recommendations, some things that I got that I do purchase when I'm in South America. Some of those things are not accessible, but there was one thing that we have that is definitely good for, I think, getting rid of I know it gets rid of tumors, but it also, I personally think it, because it gets rid of tumors, it definitely gets rid of fibroids. And I've been looking for Brazil, so I'm gonna find it outside the source of Russia. So we'll talk about that on Thursday. What else are we gonna talk about? We'll talk about a lot of stuff, because again, all these cleanses and so on is great, but sometimes you don't need to do all that. All you need is a break. And it just needs a break from your environment and going into another place where you can have access to, you know, different energies, different types of frequencies. And like I said, when I jump in and out of different places, and I always give suggestions on how you should travel. Like if you felt that you are a woman, you can't travel. I travel gratefully, safely with my children. And many of you know that. I only travel with my family. I'm just a mother like that. So, you know, when I had children, they're with me all the time. And that's just how I roll. Okay. So, what I love is when I give you suggestions about where to go, is that I always give a suggestion from the position of me as a mother traveling and a woman of color. So I hit all those, I hit all those bells, right? I check all those check boxes. Yeah. So, and I will say, gratefully, all the males traveling abroad have been very, very sweet and kind and helpful, especially Brazilian men. So I have to say that, because a lot of times people are like, oh, she's always talking about, oh my gosh, she's always talking about like men. No, I will tell you, gratefully, the men have, since I've traveled, since I left from Chile, Argentina, and Brazil, have treated us amazing. Very helpful, very sweet and kind, very just it's nice. It really it makes me have faith. I don't want to use that word. It makes you understand that there isn't any conflict between males and females. It's really just an internal battle. It's an internal thing. So, you know, when you get out of the structure of like how we feel about males, where we come from, that's why I think males travel outside of their domes to go to other females that look like the same females they're going from, but have a different frequency. I think it has to do with something internally going on with us. I really don't feel like it really has to do with the males, or males, it has to do with females. I think it's an internal battle that we're struggling with, and we project that on the other sex. I think that could be the issue, because when I go abroad and I'm out and about, the males are absolutely sweet and kind. And if they were all males were all bad, how could I have that experience? Do you understand? So it's really about what's inside of me and my experiences of whatever I'm dealing with that's generating or projecting in my terror dome. Because when I go outside of that, everybody's fine. Okay? All right, y'all. So I'm going to see you guys on Thursday. I hope this was okay. I didn't really purple pill you tonight because I'm a little tired, but I hope I gave you some gems that are helpful. Let's start repatriating with our galactic family. First thing we have to do is get rid of all our baggage. Remember that song, Bag Lady? You gonna hurt your back. Carrying all those bags like that, you know what I mean? So we got to get rid of all those bags, and it's hard. Don't listen. I'm talking to the choir. I'm talking as one of you. It isn't easy, because sometimes the things that have hurt us or we felt maybe made us a certain way, we should see that as a catalyst. It shouldn't be something that makes us a victim. It should make us a victor. Because I haven't ever seen a true warrior that doesn't have the most amazing scars, right? Battle scars. But they're still here, right? So that speaks volumes. So let's get it, right, Jamoji? Let's get it. What do you have to lose? Let's get it. Take a little break. Treat yourself special. You can travel. Stop telling yourself you need money, but you need yourself to be willing and able. Remember, I'll always have what I need at the time I need it. I will always have what I need at the time I need it. I will always have what I need at the time I need it. So when it's time, you'll have what you need. Okay? So I'm gonna go, y'all, and I will keep you updated. We're in Belo Horizonte. We were in Sao Paulo. We're going to Bahia, you know, my favorite place. Okay, so we're traveling right now. I'm loving Brazil. I got a lot of driving to do tomorrow. It's like, because someone asked me like the cross country driving in Brazil as opposed to the United States. The only difference is because Brazil is so vast. Like Brazil is like this huge, like it's just vast. But this, it's just like traveling, you know, like how you would travel to one state to another. And this, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people do it. So, you know, if you get a little, if you get a little courage, you don't have to travel like I do because I've been in Brazil quite a bit. But you can take a little thing. And I always say if you want to go to Brazil, I hope some of the sea stars from Zoom, because I know I'm recommending some of my Zombies go to Brazil to get some well needed good feeding energy. Okay? I definitely recommend it. Definitely. Okay? Just to get a little break. And I will say this. Oh, I forgot to tell you. There is some resistance though. Willy Wonka and his League of Doom don't want you to travel to those places. Why? Is because when you go to those places, you have access to not only the good energy, the good food, the healthy air, non-chemtrails, but also the entities, the energies and the entities. There are beings in those other places that are in alignment with you that you would get access to. And at this time, because your consciousness is higher, you have more access to those beings. So I notice there's a resistance with Willy Wonka allowing for certain people to travel, and that makes you should make you want to travel more. Okay? Travel before they lock down and put you in freedom cities and smart cities, because that's what they keep threatening you. Okay? So y'all, I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you for listening to my rant. I appreciate, you know, YouTube for taking down another video, because all it does is initiate me to make another video, hopefully just as valuable. I'm going to try to upload that video when I can to the Patreon. Okay, so everyone have an amazing evening. I know it's late. I'm going to get some sleep. And Zombies, I think you'll be traveling with me on Thursday, which is tomorrow, right? So you'll be traveling with me. Okay, so I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Okay, peace.